Hello students, I am Dr. Tanmay Bishwash. I welcome you all in my channel Chemistry, the Mystery of Molecules. So today's topic of discussion is hydrazine preparation. Now before going to details, one MCQ in front of you. I request please pause the video and write the answer in the comment box, and definitely at the end I shall provide you the right answer. Let's start. So this molecule hydrazine's formula is N2H4. This is a very important reagent as well as potential fuel for future. So this molecule actually having a N bond containing compound. It's actually a pictogen hydride. So Gauch conformation it has, and liquid having boiling point 114 degrees centigrade. What is the uniqueness? See, its boiling point is not too much low, not too much high. If you compare this thing with its another analog, that is a single nitrogen analog, that is ammonia, minus 33 degrees centigrade. So means it's a gas at room temperature, but this hydrazine is actually a liquid. So that makes this molecule little interesting. And this molecule is slightly basic but better nucleophilic. But if you compare ammonia is more nucleophilic, more basic compared to its nucleophilicity. The phenomena responsible for this higher nucleophilic behavior is the lone pair repulsion, which is called as alpha effect, which we will discuss in some other videos. So let's learn how to prepare this hydrazine from its synthons. I'm sorry. So how it could be prepared? By the formation of N bond, means first this bond is broken and from that it is prepared. So you may consider like that one nitrogen should be N plus, that is electrophilic, and one nitrogen should be N minus or lone pair, that is this is actually a nucleophilic. So these are the strategy. I shall give you the explanation later on. One strategy could be this, and second strategy could be previously formed N compounds. What is the example? For example, this is a nitrogen, but we know nitrogen is very less reactive, and I have make a dedicated lecture on it. Why it is? Actually, it has a triple bond, very high energy. So consequently, what is done? This nitrogen is first reduced at ultimately NH3, and that is subsequently oxidized to hydrazine. So we shall learn slowly. Now, if you look at the chemical processes, the method for hydrazine preparation is, first one is the ketazine process. And what is about this ketazine process? This could be prepared from ammonia and hydrogen peroxide, and this is named as this ketazine process. First reaction, this ammonia reacts with this butanone, and via seed-base condensation it produces this imine plus one molecule of water. These imine further oxidizes in presence of hydrogen peroxide to produce this oxide 3 members. So by the way, this it is a single bond compound, okay, means NH, this is O. So this compound, in the next step what will happen? This will rearrange itself and produce the corresponding oxime derivative. You can consider it's a sheaf-based product of you can say this hydrazine. And since it's more nucleophilic, so there is another NH2 free, so consequently it can instantly undergo reaction with another molecule of ketone present in the reaction medium and produces these hydrazone derivative. It's a dihydrazone derivative, and upon hydrolysis, means this one, you can say nitrogen is more electronegative, so it will attach to this hydrogen, double bond, 2 hydrogen possible, and this part keto will generate, because diol, these gem diols are not stable. I have already uploaded a dedicated lecture on it. So in this way hydrazine will be produced. So overall the reaction is NH3 plus hydrogen peroxide. This is an oxidation process, and in presence of this ketone, see the ketone is regenerated at the end, so consequently we can say its needed catalytic amount. So in this way it produces hydrazine and water. So if you separate this distillation, you will get hydrazine. And remember, generally pure hydrazine is explosive, but that's why in market 90% or 80% aqueous solution of hydrazines are sold. Now if we recall the epoxidation of alkene, similar chemistry is observed. In this case you can see you may say this N double bond is this double bond, is corresponding like an alkene, and in presence of peroxide, like if you say this, it's a peroxide, so nucleophilic epoxidation produces this alkene. You can consider that this is the epoxide, okay, so not this. I've already made a dedicated lecture on it, you can visit. Now another method, that is the oil Raschig process. How this operates? In this case, chlorine-based oxidant are used. By the way, one simple question. In this case, thing you can ask that hydrogen peroxide is a reactive compound and hydrazine is also reactive compound. Why hydrazine is produced from hydrogen peroxide? You can see from hydrogen peroxide we are getting hydrazine. This is because if you look at the electronegativity value, oxygen is more electronegative. So it prefers to go to minus oxidation state with octet field. In hydrogen peroxide, oxygen's oxidation state is in between -1 and it want to undergo -2, which is more stable. So consequently it get reduced and it produces relatively less reactive reagent, that is hydrogen peroxide. Okay, and similar thing you can observe in this example. In this case, this oxychloride, chlorine has +1 oxidation state and we know the halogens are most reducing. So you are keeping this in a +1 oxidation state, so it's a strong oxidizing agent. Consequently it oxidizes this ammonia to corresponding NH2Cl. How? If you look at the oxidation state of this ammonia, it's -3. And if you look at the oxidation state of this nitrogen, it's -1, because chlorine is more electronegative than nitrogen. So consequently it's -1. So you can see it's actually a 2-unit oxidation process. And along with that, hydrogen, this NaOH is produced. And in the second step, what it does, this ammonia molecule, you may consider it's a SN2 type reaction, and in this way Cl leaves and produce this hydrazine, and in this case HCl is produced. And by the way, reaction of these NaOH and these HCl will ultimately result sodium chloride. Now interesting point is that so in this case, one equivalent of sodium chloride plus water, you can say one equivalent of extra salt is produced. One point. Second point is that previously I told electrophilic nitrogen, so this chloramine you can say electrophilic, and in this case ammonia is nucleophilic. So you can understand the example. Not only that, ammonia is a gas, we know it's very difficult to handle a gas, that's why the solid analog of ammonia is urea. Okay, and not only that, urea is the most commonly used synthetic nitrogen fertilizer. So similar like ammonia, this urea is oxidized to sodium oxychloride in presence of sodium hydroxide, and ultimately what it produces same thing, along with that 1 unit of sodium carbonate. So additional one product. So please remember, in this process one equivalent of salt extra produced, this is sodium carbonate. Now question, why sodium hypochlorite or NaOCl is oxidizing agent? I have just explained, because of its +1 oxidation state, and halogen's most stable oxidation state is -1, means this one. Okay, so that's why it oxidizes this nitrogen analog into hydrazine. Now which process is advantageous from green chemistry point of view? Because nowadays green chemistry is very important. We need the development of a society, but we can't destroy nature, because if we destroy nature we have destroyed everything. And we need to keep this planet as maximum as polluted to our future generation. We should not do that. So that's why this green chemistry is now coming in interest, how much pollution we are creating along with a chemical reaction. So if you look at this peroxide or ketazine processes, in this case one is hydrogen peroxide, one is ammonia, other is catalytic, so I am not discussing. In this way it's producing stoichiometric amount of water. Water is not dangerous, so you can get the hydrazine easily by simple distillation and separation. Now in oil Raschig process, if you see, in this way you can produce hydrazine and water, fine, the previous combination, along with that 2 salts in a stoichiometric amount. Now issue is that we need huge amount of reagent for our chemical reaction. Along with that, if we produce stoichiometric amount huge reagent of byproduct, first of all we need to think, what shall we do with this? If we can dispose or utilize it properly, it's a pollution. So, and another thing, when something is unwanted, industry faces a huge loss in order to handle the byproduct. So that's why, based on my understanding, this ketazine process is advantageous from green chemistry point of view. So this peroxide process is better as the oxidant is relatively greener, hydrogen peroxide, and no extra molecule of salt is produced. Now which chemical is the greenest oxidizing agent? Obviously atmospheric oxygen, you can say. First of all, we have a huge amount of supply. Second, oxygen is produced photochemically by plants like photosynthesis, so we don't think about that much. It is produced huge amount every day, so we have a huge supply. So it is. And another thing, oxidant is in oxidation state 0, it want to go oxidation state -2, like you may consider water. So that's why it acts as an oxidizing agent. Now, so what is the source of reagent? Why we need to learn this? Because you are dealing with an industrially important molecule. If you don't learn how it's prepared, what is the source, then you don't learn it completely. You need to learn the chemical chain. And for that purpose, first of all, ammonia produced by Haber-Bosch process, reaction of nitrogen, hydrogen and ammonia. Previously I told that nitrogen means N triple bond. This is reduced in presence of hydrogen and ultimately it converted into ammonia, then it converted into hydrazine. Although hydrazine is intermediate oxidation state, but still now we do not have enough methods such that we can selectively reduce this N triple bond compound into N2H4. We need proper technological development such that we can achieve it. Now second thing is sodium hypochlorite or NaCl. How it prepared? It prepared by the oxidation of sodium hydroxide using chlorine gas, which produces sodium chloride, sodium hypochlorite and water. So this is our point of interest reagent. How urea is produced? Urea is produced by the reaction of ammonia and carbon dioxide under high pressure and temperature. It produces first ammonium carbamate, which undergo decomposition to produce this compound, and it is responsible for right now existing 50% population of the earth. Second, chloramine or monochloroamine. This is reaction of sodium oxychloride oxidizes this ammonia molecule into NH2Cl or chloramine. And hydrogen peroxide is prepared from oxygen, so that's the interesting thing. And hydrogen in presence of catalyst, which produces hydrogen peroxide, and catalyst is the organic one, 2-ethyl anthraquinone. So that's why this chemical is highly appreciated. Okay, so one suggestion based on my understanding till discussion: before you make any conclusion whether any chemical transformation is good or bad, acceptable or unacceptable, please check few points. Because student, nowadays green chemistry is included into the common syllabus, so you should learn it. So what are the byproduct in this reaction? Are they useful? Where they are thrown or dumped? Because everything we are throwing in our planet, we are not throwing in the space. So whatever we are throwing in today, tomorrow it will interfere into the ecosystem. That's why you must be careful. How many steps are needed? Because many step is responsible for more energy demand and time consumption. Not only that, it creates many step means excessive pollution. So that's also thing, and industry always prefer less number of step. It is beneficial for both economically as well as environmental point of view also. What are the carbon footprint of all the processes? How much CO2 emission is happening? Because in every step we need energy, and for energy we are dependent on energy are dependent on fossil fuel, and that fossil fuel is responsible for CO2 emission. Recently all the leader of countries have got made together in Glasgow. This summit means COP26 summit, and they have promised to reduce their CO2 emission, and after a particular year they are planning to reach net zero. Okay, for example, Prime Minister Narendra Modi have told that India will try to approach net zero in 2070. So lots of country leaders have taken. So in order to reach this net zero, we need to calculate where and how much CO2 emission is happening. Because when a country leader is selected, he make a simple promise to his countrymen. What? That I shall make the economic growth of this country. And what this leader have done in this Glasgow UK summit, that they will reduce the CO2 emission. Economic growth is associated with the CO2 emission, because more economic growth means more CO2 emission. So it's a very tough job, economic growth but less CO2 emission, and that's the point of science and technology. So we must be very careful before we select any particular step. Okay, and another thing, our environment is the most important thing to us, so that's why we need to ask this question: does it addressing the green chemistry conditions or not? If it is yes, follow. If no, then it is better to avoid. And one of the best example is use of the noble metals like palladium. Okay, so answer of this today's question: why N2 is one of the best living group. N bond energy high, it is right. N2 is a gas, it's right. It's a neutral living group, that's also right. So answer all of this, option D. Okay, so this is the end of the discussion. Thanks for watching. Please remember one statement: Earth is our home.